One of the first engine sounds I made for trains was the New Jersey Transit Aero 3 engine sound. The first one was not that good because I was pretty inexperienced back then. The second one was better, but still not as good as I wanted it to be. The third one was a variation of the second one and still wasn't too good. But lately I found a really good video to use as source material, and I managed to get a really good engine sound that accelerates and decelerates smoothly and has really long idling sound effects as well, so it doesn't sound too repetitive like the last one did. In this video, you'll get to hear what it sounds like accelerating through all the notches, decelerating through all the notches, both outside and inside the train. Then we'll see what it sounds like when you're actually riding it in service, as I have a section of New Jersey Transit tracks between Newark, Penn Station, and North Elizabeth to test it on. Before I do the test run, I'm going to read a comment from the most recent video I've made, a sneak peek of a future Trainz Railfanning route that's going to take place in Tarboro, North Carolina, the town I grew up in when I was a kid. Anyway, American Railfan says, that problem fixed yet? No, I see. Ditch the Lamborghini and make the train a bit more realistic. The ground paint will slip for now because I understand this is work in progress. And I commented, what about the train wasn't realistic? We're going to look into that a little bit, but first, I'm a little bit curious. I know I didn't leave a comment about this, but what don't you like about the Lamborghinis? It's not really that they're unrealistic. The person who made them put a lot of detail into them, so I don't quite understand why you want me to ditch them. So perhaps if you explain it, it'll make a little more sense to me. But I actually think they look nice. In fact, I think this is the first complaint I've ever gotten about the Lamborghinis in the more than a year that they've been on the road. But yeah, if you explain to me specifically why you don't want the Lamborghinis on the road, maybe I'll be able to consider getting them off the road and replacing them. Also, if you don't want them on the road, I'm curious to know what cars you would want them replaced with as well. Now, I'm going to watch this train cross the railroad crossing because I'm not entirely sure what he meant by making it more realistic. So let's see about that. Okay, at first glance I realized the locomotives don't have any running numbers. You have to understand though, sometimes editing the horn causes the running numbers to go away on this game. I'm not sure what's causing it, it's a glitch, but as soon as I figure out how to fix it, I will do that for all these locomotives that have the disappearing number glitches. Because it's a distraction to me as well. Now, he also complained that I should stop using download station content and only use content from jointed rail and railroad mods. However, I don't fully agree with that because there are a lot of good content available on the download station. For example, these tank cars that you see right now come from a guy called Dave Snow, or DES for short, on the download station, and they're very realistic. They meet all the criteria I have for whether or not a freight car is realistic enough to feature in one of my videos. And as an added feature, they even have their own custom track sounds. So there is good content available for download on the download station, and jointed rail and railroad mods don't make the only good content available. Though I do use their content a lot because it is very real. Now, I don't see anything else particularly unrealistic about this freight train besides the things I pointed out earlier. Now, all these tank cars that you see right now are from the download station, and they're also very realistic. I don't really see any problem with using them in the future. However, if you have any particular problems with them, feel free to leave them in the comments so I can understand specifically why you don't like them. I use a lot of locomotives and freight cars from Dave Snow. I think they're very realistic myself. Okay, there are two tank cars from Norfolk Southern that have the same running number. I mean, you have to zoom in really close to notice that, but still. It is something that's not realistic about this freight train, so I'll admit that. I'm going to read another comment towards the end of this video, but for now, we'll return to our regular scheduled program, and we're going to test run the Aero 3 engine. that Path PA5 engine sound is higher on my list of engine sounds to update in the future because it's starting to get really annoying. It's way too loud. I don't even know what I was thinking when I made it that loud, but I was less experienced in sound editing back then, so obviously I made a few mistakes that I need to correct now. So in the future I'm going to edit that. But first I'm going to edit the Out 46 engine sound. Anyway, the comment I wanted to read at the end of this video has been deleted by the author, so I'll just read another comment from another. This is a video I made describing the one delivery that actually caused me to lose my job as a truck driver. Anyway, this comment is the one that I'm about to read. Now, I said I have only bad things to say about this company. They gave me limited training and set me up for failure. Not only that, but when I tried to collect unemployment, they lied and said I was fired for willful malicious behavior. And then this person replied to me, well, willful is pretty strong. I don't think willful, but stupidity definitely. I don't think unemployment should be given for that. Say what you want about not being properly trained, but backing into an alley versus pulling in nose first and not running into stuff, pretty much day one of truck driving school, or simple common sense logic. There's a great old trucker song you should go listen to called That's Truck Driving by H. Jacobs, not Weird Al's version. Now, I have a few things to say about this comment. First of all, I already explained in the video why I was driving facing forward when I pulled into the alley, but apparently your tiny brain isn't smart enough to process the words within the video, so I'll draw a picture so that maybe you'll be smart enough to understand it, hopefully. Now, at this admittedly poorly drawn diagram of a Family Dollar area, this is pretty much what most areas I deliver to look like. As you can see, the alley wraps around the back of the store, and the delivery door is behind the store. The parking lot obviously is in front. In this case, I would just drive along the edge of the parking lot and drive face forward, as you can see, into the alley. And as you can see by this diagram, no matter which direction you enter the alley from, you're still going to be facing forward. So maybe you should learn a little bit about the layout of these Family Dollar locations before you judge about the specific methods I use to get into said locations. But truck drivers are like that. They enjoy judging people without actually knowing anything about the situation they were in. Now, I will draw a diagram that shows what this Family Dollar in the video looks like, and hopefully your tiny brain will be able to process the picture. Now, judging by the fact that you apparently weren't smart enough to put two and two together and understand why I made the decision to pull into the alley facing forward that time, I drew a picture so that hopefully your tiny brain will be able to process it. So, as you can see, there are two doors in this picture. Now, the alley was poorly lit, so the only thing that was being illuminated was whatever my headlights were lighting up. And those headlights were illuminating that door. The door that you see the question mark over, because I was questioning whether or not that was the one I was supposed to make a delivery to. However, it was on the same wall of the store I was making a delivery to, so it made logical sense to assume that that was the delivery point, especially since I could not see the other door. It wasn't until I pulled into the alleyway that I saw the other door because my headlights were then illuminating it, and it was then that I actually understood that that one was the one I had to make a delivery to. It also had the Family Dollar logo on it, so that also helped me out a little bit. Now, before you judge me and think, why weren't you looking for a Family Dollar logo in the first place? You have to understand, this is the first Family Dollar I made a delivery to. I have since done a little bit better in a bunch of other deliveries I made before they fired me, but this was my first location. You can't expect the first location someone makes a delivery to go perfectly well, especially if the company refuses to train you on how to do it. I mean, in what universe does that make sense? Imagine if people who were trained on how to operate nuclear power stations were trained this way, by just putting them in the control room and not telling them what to do, and then just telling them to figure it out whenever they didn't understand something. In fact, I was watching this documentary about the 3 Mile Island event that happened in, I believe it was Ohio, to a nuclear power plant where it was experiencing a meltdown. The people did not know what to do to bring it under control, so they brought in, I think it was the guy that actually designed it, and he was able to get it under control. So basically, the people were poorly trained on what to do in this situation. Had they just told them what to do when a meltdown happens, they probably could have brought it under control a lot faster. I hope you understand the point I'm trying to make. Now, as you can see by this admittedly poorly drawn truck, if I had backed into the alley with the thought that the door in the front of the store was the one I was supposed to make a delivery to, then the truck would have been facing the wrong way, you idiots! Look at it! The rear of the trailer is facing the back of the alley, and the front of the truck is facing where I would have had to have unloaded had that have been the correct door. And I know what you're thinking. The door is behind the truck, but I did not know that door was there, as I explained earlier, because it was improperly illuminated. In fact, there was an outside light over that door, but it wasn't even lit. I did not know that that was the way I was supposed to be facing until after I had pulled into the alley. If I had seen that door before I pulled in, of course I would have known to back into the alley first. But the only door I saw was the one that was in the front. And I still don't even know what that door was for. Because I mean, did it just not lead anywhere? Because that was not the correct one. I mean, there was a Chinese restaurant across the street. Maybe they keep their supplies in that door. Also, this idea of forcing large trucks to stop in such small locations to make deliveries is really stupid. Why don't they just use a Class B truck, which is a lot smaller than a Class A truck? I mean, it's not as if all the stuff in the trailer were even going to that store. Most of the time, only a third of everything that was in the trailer was going to each store, and then I would stop at another store to make more deliveries, and another store to make more deliveries, etc. Sometimes I had 4 different stops, so only 1/4 of the stuff in the trailer were actually going to that store. It seems to me like you could get a Class B truck that was 1/4 of the size of a 53-foot trailer and be able to properly make a delivery to these stores a lot more effortlessly. Like, these people are idiots if they think this makes sense. I've made the decision to pull in forward because thinking the door in the front was the one I was supposed to make a delivery to, it made logical sense to pull in facing forward. If I had seen the door in the back, obviously, and if I had seen the Family Dollar logo on it, obviously I would have made the decision to back into the alley. Now do you numbskulls understand? Or do I have to break it down even further? Like, how? I don't understand how to be any clearer than this. Now, a lot of complaints I keep getting in the comment sections are like, why didn't you just stop in the middle of the highway with your 4-ways on and then physically check the area? And I'm thinking, okay, stop in the middle of a divided highway with a bunch of vehicles and scheduled city buses driving on it. That makes a lot of logical sense, especially to someone that has no prior training and is making a delivery to their first grocery store. I mean, I don't know if you've been to New Jersey, but it's kind of illegal to block a city bus. So if I'm stopped in the middle of the highway and the bus can't get anywhere, they can actually have the truck towed for that. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's against the law in most parts of this country. Here in Pennsylvania, if you have your car parked in any position that can block a bus from operating normally, or a tram, or any kind of public transportation, the city has that right to tow your vehicle. So yeah, with that kind of logic in my head, it didn't make much sense to stop in the middle of a divided highway that city buses were driving through. In fact, there were times when I was trying to back up and some city buses were piling up behind me, so I canceled the maneuver to let the buses go through because I didn't want to get towed or get a ticket for blocking the buses. Like, seriously, do these people, if these people are truck drivers, they should at least know the car driving laws in the area, and in most cities, you can't block a public transportation. Ugh, I just don't. How can I get any clearer than that? Now, there are a lot of other comments I want to talk about, but this video is already like 37 minutes long, so I'll come back to that later in this form of a comment comeback, if you will. I've always wanted to make a video like that where I respond to some of my comments personally, but I've never really had the chance to because I hadn't received any negative comments in the first few years that I've started my channel. But this video has a lot of negative comments on it, so I feel it's appropriate if I were to start a quote-unquote comment comeback series to start with this video. There are other videos like this that I made explaining other terrible situations I found myself in as a truck driver, and those also have a lot of negative comments, so I'll be covering those too. Also, there's something I forgot to point out in this video that I want to point out now. I hope you really don't like your last paycheck if you're a truck driver, because if you work at a warehouse, for example, and they fire you or you quit or you lose your job some other kind of way, you will get your next paycheck deposited into your account or mailed to you via a check within the next week, usually the following Friday. But in trucking, if you lose your job, get fired, or quit for any kind of reason, they will take months to give you your last paycheck. I remember calling them for a long time wanting to receive, waiting for my last paycheck, and they kept giving me excuses for why they haven't given it to me yet. So yeah, if you're a truck driver, I hope you don't like your last paycheck, because you won't see it for a while. Also, I didn't really go into detail in that comment about the specific things the company accused me of as far as willful malicious intent. They actually tried to say that I crashed into the store on purpose. In fact, when I filed an appeal against them, they didn't even try to defend themselves because they knew there was no way they could prove that I crashed into a store on purpose. Usually, 911 is called when a truck driver purposefully crashes into a store, but obviously there was no accident reports or anything like that. It was literally just, oh, I accidentally backed up a little too far. And really, they're the ones that told me to back up further. So, I mean, I got you what you wanted. You're not satisfied. Also, as far as denting the door is concerned, I get comments like, how dare you dent the door? And I'm like, you do realize that the door is made of metal, right? And I hope you also realize that when you dent metal, you can bend it back into shape by just hammering it with a sledgehammer. They could have fixed that door. They just didn't want to. They were probably too lazy to put in the effort that it took. Or they weren't smart enough to know how to. I, for one, actually have repaired dented metal before. And if they had given me a sledgehammer, I probably could have buffed that door back into shape so it could fit properly into the doorway, exactly the same way it was before I hit it. But they want to make a big deal out of nothing. That's pretty much what the truck driving industry is, making big deals out of nothing. And one last thing. People keep saying it makes perfect sense to put someone in the driver's seat of a truck without training them first. I even seen that in the comment sections, believe it or not. But if you're the only ones that are doing that, then maybe you're the crazy ones. I mean, think about it. Every company that I've ever worked for, they train you everything you have to know to do the job perfectly before they actually make you do the job. Only in the trucking industry do they say, oh, here's the steering wheel, start driving and figure it out as you go, and hopefully don't get unlucky enough to lose your job because you'll never get another job again. In fact, for example, I currently work at a warehouse and my job is loading truck trailers. Now, when I started my first day, They gave me a scanner. They explained to me how to turn the scanner on, how to log into it. They even explained to me, if you scan the box and you hear one beep, that means that box is good to go in the trailer. If you scan it and you hear two beeps, it means you already scanned it. And if you hear a single long beep, that means that box does not go in that trailer, and you have to take it out. Otherwise, it will end up going to the wrong location. So, basically, my first day, I knew everything I had to do. But in the trucking industry, I mean, if this warehouse trained me how to use that scanner the same way the trucking industry trained me how to drive a truck, they would have just given me the scanner and said, okay, here's the scanner, figure everything else out on your own. And then I'd be like, I don't even know how to log in yet. Shouldn't I know that before I start working? And they'd be like, oh, just figure that out on your own. In fact, if you ask for help in the trucking industry, everyone looks at you like you're an idiot for not already knowing how to do it. So if I was like, dude, I don't know how to log into the scanner, they'd be like, oh, you're an idiot for not knowing how to log into the scanner. Just figure it out. So yeah, that's pretty much how the trucking industry is.